so welcome to another Blue Dog photography review. I'm joined today by Kath and Kassy, and we're going to be looking at Nikon's 28 to 300 3.5 to 5.6 JED VR lens. It's been out for about 12 months, or just a bit over 12 months. I have to say I got mine just over 12 months ago, and when I first got it, I wasn't impressed. I actually thought I'd wasted my money. Having said that, I've just put it through its paces in the last few weeks while we've been on tour in Siem Reap, Cambodia, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed with it as a travel lens. For me, I think it's a lens that could replace a whole heap of lenses in a traveller's kit, where you end up just with one lens and not 10 or 20, and it fits both the FX and the DX formats. Kath, you recently loaned yours to Kassy so that she could try it while she was in Cambodia. What attracted you to the 28 to 300?
I originally found it to be a very light lens, and I was doing a lot of travel as well, and I didn't want the inconvenience of going through airport checks largely or carrying heavy backpacks. And so I got it because of its weight, and then also because of its range, and I found it to be really versatile. It helped me out enormously on the streets in foreign cities, and then I came back with it and have been able to put it through lots of paces here in Australia, and in fact it's become my favourite lens. I'm very, very fond of it, and I find it just so useful for so many different situations, and I didn't really realise how much I loved this lens and had become dependent on it until I lent it to Kassy, and I wanted Kassy hopefully to validate what I'd found with the lens.
How did you find it, Kassy?
I put it through a lot of paces in Cambodia. I had that lens on 95% of the trip. Found it a really, really good lightweight lens, and also I haven't had a chance to go through all my images, but from what I have seen, it is got some great quality, nice sharp images, and yeah, I use that as my one travel lens to go to.
While I was shooting during the Siem Reap workshops, I did notice some distortion in the lens, and there's been a little bit written about it. I found the distortion I could fix quite easily and Photoshop it using the distortion filter. Did you girls find that same thing as well?
What I've found with it is that, and I don't have the post-processing skills yet to be able to correct it if I recognise it, but what I've found is that it just requires me to go back to the basics and to be stable with my tripod, and just to use good technique, and to be mindful about what I'm shooting with it, I think.
Yeah, I can also say I don't believe I experienced a lot of distortion either.
I felt it worked best around the f8 mark. I found that was where I got the sharpest images in the range, and certainly not as sharp up towards the 300 as down towards the lower focal lengths. Would you agree?
Yes, I do. Around that f8's a very comfortable place for this lens, and I've had some nice sharp images.
One thing I have to say I really do like is that I can actually manually focus while it's still in autofocus. Occasionally I found a little bit slow just to autofocus. So being able to manually pull that in and then get the contrast, it seems to work really, really well. It's got a great focusing range, infinity to around 45 centimetres I found. So I really, really quite like that. It's interesting that they've put the MA here on the switch, and M, but I really like being able to manually override that autofocus.
Thanks, Danielle, for those comments. I find them really interesting because I actually haven't had a problem with the AF speed. I find it quite reasonable for what I need, and I find that the AFC really tracks well. I have heard though that some people have had issues with whining. Have you had any? Do you know anything about that?
Look, I've read that too, Kath. To be honest, I haven't heard any whining. Did you hear anything, Kassy?
No, nothing at all.
Maybe it's the silent wave motor that are in these lenses, which I think is great technology, but I honestly haven't heard anything. And look, let's be honest and realistic. This is not a high-end professional lens. This is a lens that's been designed to fill a gap that has been a much needed gap, I think, for travel photographers. In saying that, while we're in Cambodia, I just shot some images for a feature article in a magazine, a glossy mag, using this lens, and I'm happy with it. Again, I was using it around that f8 mark, but you know, I don't think we're seeing as sharper images as what we're getting on, say, for instance, the 24-70 2.8s, but again, it's not designed to be a 28-70 2.8. It's designed to be a versatile travel lens, and that's where I think it fits the market absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. I also found f8 a very good sweet spot and got some really nice images I'd be happy enough to put on my wall.
I have to say, as I'm getting more mature, I prefer that word to older, I really do like Nikon's vibration reduction in their lenses up to 4 stops. Honestly, I found with this lens, I think I only got 3 stops, whether that's a combination of the weight of the lens being about, I think it's about 800 grams, and the weight of the D4. Kassy, you're shooting on?
I'm shooting on a D700 with an added battery pack, so weight-wise it is, if not as weighty as the D4, maybe even a little bit more weighty.
Yeah.
And I found the same. I don't think I could pull more than 3 stops out of it at this point.
And Kath, yourself?
And I'm so fond of this lens, we're not going to be easily parted.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to be, you know, doing some test shots so that we can show you some of these test shots, and so that you can actually see the comparisons. Kath's shooting on the D7000, I've got the D4, Kassy with the D700. So it'll be a good way to compare the different types of cameras. Now Nikon has don't know where that came from. Now Nikon has released its new 18 to 300mm lens, so that's going to be a big jump. I hope they bring something like that in for the full frame cameras, because you know, a lot of us still do like to travel with our DSLR, and that's looking like an interesting lens. Nikon's still doing really, really well with the optics, and I have to say I've changed my mind about the 28 to 300. It'll be staying in the kit for a bit longer yet.
Hey, believers.
Thanks, girls, so much for joining us. And thank you for joining us for another Blue Dog photography review.